But I also wanted to kind of talk about Peter Thiel a little bit, because I know you were closely associated with him. I don't know if you still are. He's kind of a libertarian. Some people call him more of an internationalist. How would you kind of peg his political understanding, and what's kind of his response to everything that's happening right now?
I mean, the New York Times calls Peter and me far-right nationalists, so it's like, are you an internationalist, or are you a far-right nationalist? Those are kind of incompatible. Are you a libertarian, or are you an authoritarian, right? So it's so hopelessly confused. I think Peter, like me, started very libertarian, and to the extent we play in electoral politics, it's Republican, conservative, but I think you can't really reduce him to labels like that. Like, he's actually kind of an independent thinker. Imagine that, right? You can't just
we don't have that now.
Well, increasingly, we don't. And that's really dangerous. And one problem in electoral politics that I've seen is, man, you're supposed to really stay on script. And if, and sometimes I didn't, and I paid for that, and it was kind of conventionally speaking, it was a mistake. But the problem in modern politics is you're not allowed to be wrong, ever. Because if there's 2 seconds of video where you say something wrong, maybe you're exploring an idea, right? But if that's wrong, and if it's cuttable and pastable into an attack ad that Mark Kelly and the Democrat machine puts 30 million behind, well, that's a problem for you. But if you're never allowed to be wrong, then you're never allowed to think, which is why so many politicians feel like wind-up dolls, right? Robots that just say the thing that the consultants wrote, and that's safe. And then, like, what kind of politics does that produce? The kind of politics we've had, and it fails people.
Outside of the tremendous amount of money he made, for the social ramifications, do you think Peter Thiel has concerns about funding Facebook, or regrets?
Or PayPal?
Yeah, PayPal especially. Come on.
Well, I think it is probably really sad to see. I mean, because PayPal, he hasn't been involved in since 2001, I think. Right. 2002, they sold it to eBay. And to see it become, this extremely profitable business, right? That's probably nice. But to see it become this woke, horrible, PayPal's one of the worst. And I know Peter agrees with that. And so that's got to be hard to create this thing, and it's your baby, and then all of a sudden it's like ruined by
watching your kid go to college and come back with a shaved head and like pink eyebrows,
telling you how racist and bibigoted you are, Dad,
spitting on you, hating
so that's got to be horrible. Facebook was a really good investment in 2004. It was a good investment, and then he sort of rode the wave and saw it become like this really charismatic company. 2008, 2012. Facebook was going to take over the world. 2014, right when we wrote this book about 0 to 1 monopolies, kind of warning people, hey, monopolies can be good. They can also be really, really bad. I think Facebook has been net very destructive for the past 5 or 6 years, and ultimately Peter hopped off the board, right? So it's this whole life cycle.
I think starting in around 2008, Facebook started getting really, really, really bad. It was the beginning of the algorithmic news feed, when people started having too many friends and liking too many pages. And so the feed was just moving too quickly. I could be wrong, but my understanding is Facebook decided to implement an algorithm where it would feed you more of what they thought you would like to see to keep you on the platform for longer.
Echo chamber, confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Yep.
Then you see the transformation of the BuzzFeeds, the Huffington Posts. They started adhering and molding themselves to the algorithm. And the best example of this is Mike.com, which when it started was pro Ron Paul, but quickly realized the algorithm favored wokeness. And it's a really, really simple mathematical equation, right? In the beginning of the internet, or I shouldn't say the beginning, but in the late 2000s, early 2010s, the Ron Paul revolution was in full swing. It was a meme. It was viral. People believed in it. The algorithm starts becoming more prominent. And what happens is rage-inducing content gets more clicks and gets more shares. So police brutality videos start going viral. This contributes to a lot of the libertarian thinking. But then something happens. If you make a video about racism, it goes viral. You make a video about police brutality, it goes viral. So that's, X views and Y views. But you make a racist police brutality video, now it's XY views. It is multiplied. It is bigger. All of a sudden, you start seeing articles from like Vice where it's like, gay people, gay trans people of color are the strongest argument in favor of Black Lives Matter, to cram all of those words into one article to maximize algorithmic pressure. And you end up with intersectionality and wokeness being amplified, monetized, and profitable.
People hijack the really weak artificial or the machine learning algorithms. And then when they went public, Facebook went public, they started charging people money to get your own followers to see you as part of this algorithmic boost. I remember in 2011, we were working with Minds and this Facebook group called Exposing the Truth, which was hugely popular. And then as soon as they went public, man, no views. And everything was pay-per-view. What happened when Facebook went public? We had Vivek Ramaswamy on the other night, and he was saying they were expected to have like a $55 public offering. When they go public, stock's supposed to be $55. It came out at like $18. And then he said it was like a wealth distribution thing? Like intentionally they...
Well, I think the point of the conversation was maybe that was the exit for, intelligence or other nefarious entities that wanted to get their money out of the machine somehow.
Like they wanted people that were honest brokers to be like, I'm bailing on this, and then, or just to not buy or something.
They were
like
dumping their connection to it.
Bad time to dump because Facebook stock exploded in the year subsequent to the IPO. You really
what's it currently?
You did not want to sell. I mean, what is it currently? I haven't checked lately, but in I want to say 2013, 2014, 2015, that stock did incredibly well.
What were you doing with Peter Thiel? I know you're working with him in San Francisco. What was your role?
Just managing the family office. Just always trying to find the next thing to invest in. And
so his investment company, Thiel Management, is that what it's called?
And the cool thing about Peter is, while he's I think the world's best venture capitalist, right, or certainly top 3, but I think he's the best. He's always it's like 1 minute you're talking about what to invest in, the next minute you're talking about China. Yeah. And what's going to happen in 30 years, and then peak oil, and like what's the deal with that? And then he's truly intellectually omnivorous.
Is he a peak oil believer?
I have to ask him. I think he would have said yes 10 years ago, and now not so much.
It's a very contentious idea that I believe I don't actually believe in. But would you say his principles are more aligned with making money or sharing kind of his larger libertarian, more right wing ideas? Because when you have so much power and influence, you're either motivated by let's make all this money or let's promote these principles. He did have I think backing of Ron Paul. And then went and supported Donald Trump in the last election. So I was just wondering from your perspective, and if it's too personal, you don't have to ask.
No, it's not too personal. I mean, I don't want to speak for him. He'd probably come up with some cut why those were like actually, not mutually exclusive, and why they actually compound if you pursue both goals at the same time or something like that.
Can you guys define peak oil? What is that?
That's a theory that the oil is going to be running out. There's not going to be enough oil, and therefore we need to get off oil immediately. Because
I think it's true. I just think the question is how much oil. Obviously, there's a finite amount. There's a finite Earth. So the question is there so little oil that we might run out? Or is it that it is finite, but there's so much human could never begin to consume all of it?
Yeah, I don't believe it to be true, because a lot of the science is also backed by a lot of the people who are saying, the world's going to end in a few years because of the climate. So we see a lot of the same rhetoric for the same people. We always, it's a decade. It's always a new problem. It's always a new controversy.
Yeah, there's an alarmism, right, to it that never quite pans out.
Exactly.
AOC saying the world's going to end.
Yeah, the ocean levels are going to rise. The ice is going to, and then it was the ozone layer a couple decades before that. And then what was it a couple decades before that? There was always something going on.
Global cooling.
Global warming.
The ozone's not a good argument, in my opinion, because a bunch of regulations were put in place.
Ban CFCs, the ozone is fine now.
Yeah, but the sensationalism.
So that actually gives them brownie points when you make that argument, because they're like, oh yeah, we banned the things causing that and we fixed it. Yeah. So I say, look, it's not one or the other. We had global cooling, now we have global warming. That gives me pause. The ozone layer thing's an entirely different issue.
Yes, I'm just talking about the kind of talking points when people are saying the world is going to end every decade. That was one of the talking points, and the parameters of what you described is correct.
We just got to start a new one. We got to start like, how about global tremoring?
Acid rain is also another big one.
Artificial intelligence. That's one.
Global tremoring. More earthquakes are going to happen because of
fracking.
That's a real one.
That's a real one too. Yeah.
But I was gonna say like the earthquake in San Andreas, the San Andreas Fault's gonna go because insert human activity here. It's all the humans doing jump rope, jumping up and down, shaking the ground. It's gonna gotta stop. No more exercise. Stop exercising.
A real one is we might get hit by meteors if we just sit around on our hands for the next 300 years. It wiped out previous civilizations. So
solar flare. Solar flare is going to wipe out all of our electrical equipment.
Hard to tie that one back to human causes, but
it's
that's why it's always considered.
It's the TV. Theory. It's all of the radio waves.
We're messing with the
that's bouncing around.
I'd submit the two real ones. One, which is more of a slow boil, is China. I really do think China is a existential threat long term. Unfortunately, right? We're already in some kind of cold war with China, and we need to make sure we win that so that we never get into a hot war with China. And then, speaking of hot war, it's nuclear power. Nuclear war. I still think we are underpricing the risk to having the Russia-Ukraine situation escalate into an all-out nuclear war.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.